Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Hi guys and dolls, it's me Cora, welcome back. Today I've got another playtime video for you guys. I've got some new products that were sent to me by the people that put on the makeup show. I wasn't able to make it to the one in LA next weekend, so they sent me a little box of goodies that will be at the show. These are products that are either debuting at the show or new brands to the show. The bottom line is I have a bunch of new fun stuff to play with and show you guys how it works. So I decided to kind of use a whole bunch of new products in a video, stuff I have literally never used. A lot of these things I'm actually taking out of the box to use for the first time. A couple of things I had lightly swatched and things, but generally this is like a first impressions kind of video. So I'm using the Kat Von D Lock-It eyeshadow primer. It comes in about 5 shades. I really like this product. I'm interested to play around with it a little more. Next we have the Shade and Light palette. Now they're coming out with these little quads. The packaging on these is just phenomenal. I love the texture and the attention to detail. So the inside there's a mirror and then there's 4 colors. There's a base color, a crease color, a definition color, and then a highlight. So these are all based on harmonious color collections, if you will. So this one is the Rust. There's also going to be a plum, a sage, and I think a smoky one, if I'm not sure. I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but the palette's quite lovely. I'm taking the base shade with a large fluffy brush. This one's from Sugar Pill. Putting that all over my eyelid, just kind of sweeping it all over. This is a really great base eyeshadow shade for me. I'm really excited about the prospects of this one. About the prospects, it's very... Anyway, now I'm taking the highlight. Sometimes when I'm recording these voiceovers, I find myself saying stuff. I'm like, what am I even talking about? Highlight shade, put it under the brow bone. Yay! Okay, so now I'm taking the Shade and Light brush from Kat Von D. And I do want to talk a little bit about this brush. So one end is like a little round, dense, like buffer kind of brush. I'm using this to use that gorgeous orange eyeshadow in my crease. I really love this color, but as you can see, there was some skipping about halfway over into like the inner portion of my lid. Now eventually I'm able to buff that out. I think it's basically a combination of a matte eyeshadow with a buffer style brush. But to be honest, this isn't really my favorite for using with powders. At least not for like a lay down application, because it does a great job of buffing it out. As you can see, I continue to blend. I did some real time blending in this video so you could really see how things work. I'm then buffing that out with the lighter color, which, by the way, they are so harmonious and beautiful together. I love this palette. I love the concept of them. I'm really excited to check out the sage and the plum one as well. Now I'm taking the little other side of this brush, which is a little pencil brush with the definer eyeshadow. Love this. Love, love, love. This works excellently. So I'm just enhancing that outer V, give me a little bit more depth in that outer corner. And then I use the little buffer side to blend it out. And I think this is going to be my favorite way to use this brush going forward, is to use the buffer end simply as like an enhancement tool for the pencil brush, which I really like the way that it works. I think it lays down products beautifully. And then the buffer is just like, see, I kind of done too much. The buffer just comes in and like, boop, 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 blurs it out. But in terms of laying down eyeshadow or using this in my crease, I don't think the buffer is going to be my favorite. But again, I was just experimenting and trying new things. So I did want to have a little bit nicer of a fade, so I'm taking that base shade again. One thing I will say about this palette is I do feel like the eyeshadows are somewhat powdery. Now that's kind of true for all Kat Von D eyeshadows, so I didn't find that surprising, and I don't find it to be like a major deal breaker either. It's just something I noticed and thought I'd put it out there. So now I'm using this pure eye polish, and this is kind of a weird product. It's like a wet thing with like a mesh overlay, and you use this little silicone applicator to pick up the product. And then you put it on your eyelid, and it can be an eyeshadow on its own, or it could be a primer for another eyeshadow. So I decided to go ahead and lay it down all over my lid first and kind of see how it functions. I did really like the way that this laid down with the applicator tool itself, which I was kind of like, I thought it was gimmicky, honestly, when I opened up the package. And then I tried, blending this out with an actual brush, and I realized that it really does work best with the applicator tool. So there you go. Sometimes those little gimmicky things are actually there for a reason. So I actually came back with the little applicator tool thing to help smooth and blend everything out. And you can see it did a really great job of that. I wanted a bit more vibrancy that was like a little more muted plum than what I wanted. So initially I took a brush and I just barely touched it on Makeup Geek's Masquerade eyeshadow. Like, oh, let's just brighten it up a little bit. It wasn't really doing, I mean, I only picked up a tiny amount of product, so that's why it wasn't super intense. Now I'm like, nope, bringing my finger in. A lot of times with these foiled eyeshadows, I also think that they go on better with the finger, but I could have packed it on more with the brush, but I wanted less texture and just more color impact right there in the center of my lid, so that the outer and inner corner would appear a bit darker because they are a little darker, but they're also a little duller. Dullness in color will also help it recede, similar to using a matte or a dark eyeshadow. I then wanted to enhance that orange a bit more. I love orange eyeshadows. They just make my eye color pop. And for this eye look, I decided to end up going with an triadic color scheme, which is a really good time to talk about color theory. So a triadic color scheme is where 3 colors are in equal distance from each other on the color wheel. So in this case, we've got red, violet, we have a blue, green, and we have the orange. We haven't seen the blue, green yet, but trust, it's coming. That darker brown again, just really, get that crease defined a bit more. I really like the pencil tip on this brush, and then using that buffer to like buff it out. I'm digging it, and I love the brush coffin it comes into. I mean, how can you not love that? So as always, I like to show you guys the fallout because I typically do my eye makeup first. So I want to show you how much fallout there actually is for those of you who like to do your eye makeup after you've done your face makeup. Little blending with a fluffy brush. You gotta call in the right brush for the right function. Now I'm using a Natasha Denona primer. I was sent a little kit of her foundation stuff, so I decided to go ahead and test them out with this because I hadn't gotten around to using them either. So I put the primer all over my face. It's very moisturizing and smoothing. It smelled really good too. So this is the Natasha Denona Face Glow. This is their foundation that's a little bit more of a glowy type of texture. It's a little more moisturizing. It was a little bit too light for my face, so I mixed it in with a Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation. This is R50, I believe. R250. Yeah, that's the deeper of the two pinky tone ones I have. Anyway, long story short, as I was editing this, I realized I didn't actually film myself blending in the foundation. So I put it all over my face, and then I think my camera stopped or something. I don't know. It's not there. So we're moving on. Here's my concealer. This is from It Cosmetics. Again, a product I haven't used yet, or I have used minimally. I've kind of tested out the shades. Medium neutral color actually works better for me than the lightest color, which is a little bit too light. And I do like to sort of put a color that is not super like highlighting right next to my lash line, and then come in with a lighter color underneath that. And I'm going to do that in just a moment with a contour kit that I'm going to be using now. So this is the Makeup Forever contour palette. They just launched these and they are freaking incredible. So there are different colors depending on your skin tone. So here's the bottom one is number 20, which is my shade. The top one is number 30. They do come with this really cool helpful guide, which is a great like little reminder of how to contour for different face shapes. Kind of cool and interesting to know, and especially since a lot of basic contouring that you're going to see is generally built around a oval face shape, which is my general face shape, but I do, I have specific contouring wants and needs for me personally, not so much generally based on my face shape, but whatever effects I'm trying to create. So I'm doing a few different things here. I'm placing that highlighter, as I said, underneath the eye, a little below where I had my concealer, placing it in a few places where I get redness or dark spots. A little bit above my lip, a little bit going down my nose. So this is sort of like a a concealer highlight cream hybrid is what I was trying to say. So I like to highlight along my jawline to make that a little bit more strong. Just kind of general. So I was sort of half following the guideline, half just doing kind of what I wanted to do. I'm going to use far less of this than what they say to use. They give instructions on how to use it on the neck and stuff. Since I'm wearing a high-necked dress, I didn't think that it was something I needed to do today. I did some contouring in the nose, and I really wanted to show you guys this whole process because cream contour is not something I've shown on my channel a lot because I generally don't like cream contour. However, the colors in this kit, you can see they're pigmented, but they have a little bit of translucency, if I could talk. and they have a really fantastic texture. So what that does is the slightly translucency to it helps it meld in with your foundation colors and your skin color better. So you don't have this like, hi, I put brown stuff all over my face look, because that's just not really natural looking. This does a really great job. You can see it's just blending into my skin color and being like a deeper version of my skin tone. To blend this in, I'm using my Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. You can see it just really melds the product in with my skin. So I take a little bit of that darker color just underneath the jaw, and then I'm going to blend both of these onto my skin. I kind of go back and forth between them as I'm blending them just to mix the colors in, but I'll still get that effect of the highlight on the jawline and then the shadow just underneath the jawline. The other thing you can see, I have this part where my like a bump thing just underneath. I don't know how to explain. It's not even a bump. It's just like the fold of my, skin where my ear is. So I use a little bit of the darker cream right there just to create a shadow there as well, because my other earlobe is more detached, whereas that one is more attached. It's actually, I've heard it's quite rare to actually have one earlobe that's attached and one that's not attached. Weird. I feel like a freak now. Moving on, I'm using this great Besame powder. This is the Rose Vanilla powder. And again, I haven't ever used this before, but I thought, you know what? This sounds like it'd be really great for the under eye. So let's stick that bad boy under the under eye. Now this is the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores powder, and I have opened this before. Watch this. What's with the smoke, man? I opened this jar of powder and like it just poof went everywhere. And I've had jars of powder do this in the past, so I wasn't like that surprised, but I always find it really funny when that happens. It generally happens with super, super fine milled powder, which this definitely is. So I basically use this in the bake method. I applied less of it than I would do a bake powder. I don't think I loved it for this application in the way that I used it. So I'm going to try out this powder a few different ways because I felt like overall it made my skin look really dry. It also might have been a poor match with the Natasha Denona foundation, which is more of like a glowy, hydrating type foundation. And then to put something on that's very mattifying, maybe not my best choice. However, I will say on camera and in photographs, it looks great. So it's just in person, it wasn't like perfect. So knocking off the excess powder with a Charlotte Tilbury brush, as you do. And now for brows, I'm using this Makeup Forever product. This is really, really cool, you guys. So it has a few different functions. It's got the spoolie end. It's got the triangular shaped brow pencil product. And then if you twist out the middle, there's this little highlight powder thing. I thought that was kind of cool. So I actually am in desperate need of removing all my little baby hairs from underneath my brows. So you can see this powder is sort of catching on those. And then when I rubbed my finger over, it made it so much worse. Because this powder, it has like I don't know how to explain the texture, but it's not a super dry powder. It's like a satin powder. I don't know. It went weird is the bottom line. So now I'm using... I forget which shade exactly I'm using. I will figure that out and have it listed for you guys in the description box down below because I can't think of it off the top of my head. But also I was so zoomed in. This was my first video that I filmed zoomed in that new way I can do with my amazing new tripod, which I discussed in a video last week. So I had some trouble, so I kind of switched eyebrows to show you guys the other brow, how that works, because the first one kept going in and out of focus because I'm also using a new setting on my camera. You can see I'm really trying to change things up. So this is how I've been liking to do my brows lately, is to fill them in overall with a lighter brow color, lighter than my hair, and then take a darker color, darker than my actual hair, and just go over the top edges of the brow hairs just to sort of tint them. This works really well at giving me a nice amount of definition in definition on my brow. Then I'm using a little comb to kind of calm down the tail end because I have some very long brow hairs in the tail end and they need some control. So here we bring in that beautiful bluey green, sort of like a forest green eyeshadow. This is from Stila. Again, oh, the name is escaping me. These Stila eyeliners, I do like. They have a felt tip, which sometimes leads to them not drawing the easiest. There can be skips and drags and other such things. So when I'm doing a winged eyeliner with something that's a little difficult to work with like this, it's not so much about painting it on perfectly, because you're gonna mess it up, because you guys will see this actually in a couple seconds, that the felt tip on this is a little funky. So my point is, you take some Bioderma or some kind of micellar water and you remove what you've messed up and then clean it up and try again. And this is also a great way to sort of build up the liner and make sure that it's even on both sides. I can't tell you how much I love these little pointed precision Q-tip things. They really make applying makeup quite easy. There, you can see like the tip is all kind of like frayed. And I haven't used this eyeliner that much. And that's the thing that bothers me a lot about felt tip liners is I feel like the ends always get frayed. But I love the color, so I really, there aren't that many options in this type of product. There's very few with like actual like brush tips. See, I messed it up again. What do? You bring in your makeup remover and your little precision Q-tip and then boom. I typically will like put the remover on one side and keep the other side of the Q-tip dry so I can easily like wipe off any mistakes. So these are a pair of Stilazzi lashes. These are the 962. I'm going to give my lashes a quick curl with my new lash curler that I got from Walgreens, which is amazing. I almost feel like maybe it over curls my lashes. So I'm not 100% sure if I'm in love with this yet. This is an IT Cosmetics mascara called Hello Lashes, which always makes me think of Jeffree Star, which is perfect because I was actually listening to Jeffree Star while I was doing this makeup. If you guys follow me on Instagram, I uploaded a quick video of me like listening to the music while I was doing my makeup. So I'm applying my false lashes. Again, my lash applicator tool is missing. Never to worry, I have in fact actually replaced it since then. I found a new one I like even better. So that's always kind of cool. You lose a product, a tool in this case that you love and you're like, oh my god, I'm never gonna live without it. And then you find something new that actually works better. So in some ways you're like kind of glad you lost it. So anyway, I'm just kind of going off on a tangent. In the lower lash line, I'm using a ColourPop liner. I believe this is Fast Lane, but it could have been Workout. Again, I will figure out which one it was, and I will have it listed in the description. And I'm sorry, you guys. I filmed this way, way, way in advance. I filmed this like 2 weeks ago, so I'm kind of like forgetting exactly what was used for each thing. This I actually know is my Perversion liner from Urban Decay, because that's my favorite inner rim liner. This one and the Rockin' Coal from Charlotte Tilbury are the main ones that don't give me irritation. Also, the one from Marc Jacobs doesn't give me inner rim irritation. And lately, my eyes have been a little more sensitive. So, definitely got to pull out whatever works for you. This eyeshadow is Secret Garden from Makeup Geek. And it's really just going to be great at smoking out that lower lash line and adding that sort of forest green, blue-green. And it melds beautifully with the top line, which is so important for my personal eye shape. I have hooded eyes. And a lot of times it's about creating an illusion or making something recede or making something pop forward. Really, all makeup is about creating illusions. So now I'm using a Natasha Denona powder. This is kind of, it's a highlight powder. It's a more subtle highlight powder. I don't love it with this brush. This is a Wet n Wild brush. Again, it was a new product. I wanted to use my new stuff. I didn't like them together, but I just kind of went with it. I'm like, well, we're already here. We already made it happen. Speaking of this blush from Palladio, this is the Peach Ice one I showed in my most recent video, the drugstore haul. Not sure I love this blush. I had to layer and layer and layer and layer and layer and layer. And I'm thinking that maybe this Wet n Wild brush is not so, maybe that's like the issue. It's like, maybe it's just not picking up a lot of product. Although it's a very dense, soft brush, so if anything, you'd think it would like over apply the blush. So yeah, I don't know. Playing around with things, experimenting, taking my hair down. This is how I do my heatless curls. Let me know if you guys want to see a tutorial on this hairdo. There's lots of different ways to do it. You can do it when your hair's wet, you can do it dry, and you'll get different effects depending on how tightly you wind the hair. And then just reapplying my little hair flower crown headband thingy. And these earrings, P.S., are dragons with boobs. They actually have nipples. They're kind of my favorite earrings ever. They were my mother's, and I always thought she was kind of a badass when she wore them. So they're part of my little Fairy Boho look that I've got going on today. Now this lip product from Makeup Forever, again, these were all new products. I was just opening the box that day. I thought this was a lip gloss when I was applying it, because apparently I can't and don't read my products when I open them occasionally. So I put this on like it was a gloss. It is very shiny when you first apply it. And then about half an hour after I applied it, like all the gloss was gone. I was like, what the heck? Why is my gloss gone? Duh, it's a stain. I felt so stupid. So, yeah, that's cool. Fun times. Just thought I'd put it out there. It's an interesting product. I want to experiment with it a little more, maybe try some other colors. But, you know, lip stains. They were super popular for a minute, and then the liquid lipsticks came in. Maybe lip stains will make a comeback. I don't know. And then as a nice little touch to sort of, you know, blend the colors, I'm taking Voltage from Makeup Geek, which is a like blondie gold highlight color, and I'm using that in the inner corner to meld that in with the green. Then I had to go in with the blush again. This is a drugstore blush, and it just wasn't popping. And also sometimes products will have like an overlay on them so that they're not as intense at first, which I definitely think is possibly the case with this. I don't know. It's kind of rough when you mix drugstore and like really pro products like the, you know, the eyeshadows and the lip products that I use today, which have intense pigmentation, and then a drugstore product, typically, not always, I mean, sometimes drugstore products have like crazy pigmentation, but generally speaking, they don't have the same concentration of pigments in them. Therefore, they're going to look a little bit less intense, naturally. Now, if I was using less intense pigments and powders and paints all over my face, it would be less obvious that something wasn't popping. I wanted to show you guys that stain once it had dried down, and also I'd put that powder over it, which I just showed you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I had a blast creating this video for you, and I will see you in my next video. Remember to be vintage or tacky. Just be your own kind of beautiful. See you, bye, and subscribe!